Peace family, this is Ayapo Yapa, and this is the Drapetomaniac Podcast. And I am the HDIC, that is the head Drapetomaniac in charge. And we are here to have conversations on how to get off this plantation. On today's Drapetomaniac Podcast, we're going to talk about hoarders. Hoarders. For a few days, Angela and I watched, I won't say we binge watched, but we did watch several episodes.
Excuse me. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that you listeners are listening to the Drapetomaniac Podcast on doayamedia.com. You are, right?
Hoarders. And it was pretty intense watching just watching that series. Anyone who's ever seen Hoarders, it shows different people who are hoarders and, their living conditions, their psychosis, everything. It just shows, this attachment that they get to their things. And ultimately, it turns into a situation where they're about to lose family, friends, loved ones, or their homes. There are times that some of them are going to have legal action taken against them and so on. And they have a really hard time letting go of these hoards. Now, it's not just like they're collecting something and it's in order or whatever. It's just trash all over the place, just trash. And I'd like to talk about that in the context of us separating from, us separating as a people. And I'm going to take it in a direction that, you probably don't expect. Now, when it comes to the hoarding, it shows they have, a whole bunch of junk stacked up every place. And some of the people actually have actual collections of items, but it's just all over the place. They can't even walk through their own homes sometimes because everything is just piled up every place. And sometimes there's not even really trash involved. It's just so much stuff in this small space. Okay. And this becomes a psychological issue, an emotional issue for them, and they can't stop the hoarding. Now, anyone who has seen the show Hoarders and sees the psychological profiles of these hoarders, the question could be asked, would any one of us want to change or trade places with them? Would any one of us want to have one of these people in charge of our home? Seriously, think about that for a moment. There's some hoarder and you see that they're just totally out of control and they're totally irrational when it comes to this hoard that they have in their homes. Would you trust that person to be in charge of your home? There's a reason I'm asking this. Okay. When it comes to hoarding, it's more about the psychological state of the person than it is about the hoard itself. The hoard itself is just a manifestation of their psychosis. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't know, but I do look at things, and like anybody else, I'm able to look at things and extrapolate from it what issues are going on. In addition to the professionals saying what's going on, I can also see how it applies in different situations. And so I'm going to give you a couple names. Mike Bloomberg, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and there are a host of others. These people are in the ranks of billionaire. Okay. Now, when we look at the things that like a Jeff Bezos has and owns and so on, it was kind of like when these I can't remember the name of the different robber barons, but they would just accumulate all this wealth. Okay. And at some point, I believe all of us who are not multi-millionaires or billionaires, at some point, all of us have asked at least once, how much stuff do you need? How much can you buy? Now, there are others who would say, well, it's not all about buying things. It's not all about owning things. It's also about the consolidation of power. I understand that. And the question then becomes, along with that, then how much power do you need? Why do you need this power? Why do you want this power? I will submit to you that the same psychosis, the same mental processes that have these people hoarding all this stuff that's stacked up to the ceiling and they're living in all this junk, right? I submit to you that the same psychological profile will belong to these same billionaires who hoard money and power. If you could physically put their money in a place, if you could turn their power into a tangible thing, a tangible substance, and you started piling it up in a place, then it would look like an unwieldy mess. It would be a hoard. But unlike the people on Hoarders, who you look at them and they're living in all this squalor and all this mess, they are shunned, and they're dogged out, because they're living in all this crap. But then you look at a billionaire who owns several mansions. You can only live in one place at a time, has private jets, has consolidated all this power, owns this, owns that, and always seeking to own more. And they have more than they could ever spend. They have more than they or several generations after them could ever hope to spend. And they have it by their self. Right? If you could see it tangibly as a physical thing, it would look like an unwieldy hoard, because it's the same mentality. Now, going back to what I said about these people on Hoarders that you look at that are living in all this mess and all this squalor, you would not want them in control of your home. Now, we live in a system that in which money is power. The government's bought. Everybody knows this. Anybody that has any sense or any consciousness at all knows that the government is bought and paid for. Period. And so if money buys power, if money buys the government, and so on, then you're dealing with people who have their hands on the steering wheel and are in control of what happens in the country. And they have the same psychosis as the people who are hoarding all this crap. Do you understand what I'm getting at? It's the same psychosis. It's the same mental process. And you have them making decisions about what's going to happen to you in your life. And they have the psychological profile of a hoarder. And part of that psychological profile, by the way, is that they are irrational. They do not think rationally. All they're about is getting. I have to hoard. I have to have more. That's why you see all these people who, like, you could take Mike Bloomberg or any of them that are like running for office. And look at the kind of money that they have. And they could stop working right now. They could stop doing anything right now and go away and live the rest of their lives without having to lift a finger ever. What compels them to keep pushing? What compels them to keep pushing is that hoarding mentality. And you have these people making decisions key decisions about what is happening to you. As Angela and I discussed it, we realized, and Angela pointed out first, that even more than anything, that hoarding psychosis, that hoarding mindset is based in materialism. You know, it's based in materialism. So, like I'm always saying, when you're caught up in materialism, these people don't have their things have them, and they can't escape from it. But in order to separate ourselves from this system of white supremacy, for us to separate from it, we have to start separating from the things first. We have to separate in our minds. We have to separate from the things. We have to separate from the stuff that we've been taught. When we look at a millionaire or a billionaire rather, like Bloomberg, or we look at a billionaire like Bezos or Zuckerberg, we may look at them with a kind of disdain, but at the same time, secretly, deep inside, don't you want to be them just a little bit? And when I say want to be them, I mean be like actually them. I mean be in their position. Sure you do. Sure you do. And the thing is that when you start to break it apart, you understand that they are able to hide their hoard in plain sight. How do they hide their hoard in plain sight? They hide it in the form of private jets. They hide it in the form of limousines. They hide it in the form of mansions. They hide it in the form of designer clothes and Armani suits. So it doesn't look like a bunch of junk, but it actually is. It's a bunch of junk. And it has them. And they have this, it's like a bottomless pit. It's like this bottomless monster that they have to keep feeding. Because they can never, ever get enough. But the problem is, it would be all right by me if they could never ever get enough. Go do you. The problem is that for you to keep getting, and I'm talking about these billionaires now, for you to keep getting, you had to buy the government. You had to buy this system. And now your psychosis, your hoarding is affecting me and mine. Because you're making decisions about where we live, about how much we get paid, or don't get paid, about what our insurance is like, whether we have health care. All these things are wrapped up in these hoarders and their psychosis. My suggestion is to start freeing yourself. I know I've started getting rid of things. And with each thing that I get rid of, the more free I become. Because you're no longer tethered to your stuff. Imagine what it would feel like if you had an empty house. Well, not empty, but you had a house that had a table, food in the refrigerator, maybe a TV, whatever, but a couple nice little things that you didn't really care if somebody came in and walked in and grabbed them and walked out. You know what? You could go any place on earth and your mind would not go back once to your home saying, oh, I wonder if somebody broke in. I wonder if somebody's stealing my stuff. Look at these commercials they have. They have these commercials for like the Ring and for different, surveillance, devices that you can put in your home so that if you're someplace else or you're on vacation on the other side of the United States or around the world, you can look and see if anybody's messing with your stuff. But what if you don't have a bunch of stuff, and what little stuff you do have, you don't care about? Then you can just go and enjoy your life and be at peace. And that's my goal, is to be at peace. And I will be at peace. Me and mine, we will be at peace. And so I started out by separating in my mind from this system. And now I'm further separating by getting rid of things slowly but surely. It may take a while, but I don't hold it. I wanted to make sure that though I have things, those things don't have me. And that's what I would like for you to do also. If you desire, if you want to be free, then do that. But just consider all these people who are touted in society and like the millionaires, the billionaires. These are the people to emulate. These are the people to look up to. These are the people to aspire to be. No, they're not. They're hoarders. They're hoarders, and they're living in a big pile of stinking mess. It just looks nice because it's covered with diamonds and gold, but it's still a big pile of stinking mess. I would rather be free. I would rather be free. And I want you to be free too. So that's it for the Draped Maniac podcast. I apologize that I didn't do one last week. I got a little sidetracked, to be honest, and didn't get to do one. But I am so grateful and so thankful for those who listen to the podcast. I want to also thank all those who have subscribed to my YouTube channel. That's kind of surprising to me. I never thought that it would even get over 750 subscribers. It's at about 800 now. And it's not like this huge YouTube channel, but it's not necessarily supposed to be huge. This is for people who want to get off this plantation. And, you know, if you don't, then that's fine too. I just know that I want off. And so anyway, I want to thank you again for listening. Peace and blessings to you, as Sister Ajali Shabazz says, from the Radical Sister. Please check out her channel. Check out Lashid for You, Psychopathist. And, that's about it. I'm rambling now. So, as always, this is the Draped Maniac podcast. I am the HDIC, that is the head Draptomaniac in charge. Ayapo Yapo. And as always, I will see you on the run.
And thank you again for listening to the Draptomaniac podcast. Tune in next week at doiamedia.com. DOIAMEDIA.com. And again, we'll catch you on the run. Peace.